On average, an Australian construction company has filed for bankruptcy every 24 hours over the last 2 years. Australia's construction industry is facing a serious crisis at the moment. In 2023, construction insolvencies hit a 9-year high, with over 700 companies going out of business in the space of 3 months, leaving thousands of projects unfinished and many homeowners stuck. As quantity surveyors, we have a unique perspective on this issue. We work with the numbers behind every aspect of construction projects, which allows us to see trends that might not be immediately obvious to others. And the data we've collected is concerning. Material costs have increased significantly, with some sectors seeing rises of 20 to 40%. Labour costs have also gone up significantly. Project timelines have extended too. What used to take a year is now taking 18 months or more. So, how did we wind up with a situation like this? How is it that building and construction companies prefer to file for bankruptcy than to make it work? So, in this video, I'm going to share with you the main reasons that we are in a construction company crisis, such as the aftermath of COVID-19 and the disruption of supply chains. Interest rates have been on the rise. Government policies, while intended to help, have had some unintended consequences. The COVID stimulus packages, for example, initially boosted the construction industry, but also set off a chain of events we're still dealing with today. And all of these issues aren't just causing delays and budget overruns, they're raising serious questions about the long-term viability of the construction industry and its ability to meet Australia's future building needs. So, what does this all mean for you? Let's jump in to find out. To understand the current crisis in Australia's construction industry, we need to look back at where it all began. Our data analysis reveals a clear turning point in early 2020 that set off a chain of events that led to today's challenges. So let's break it down. Before COVID-19, the construction industry was a powerhouse, accounting for about 10% of Australia's GDP and employing nearly 10% of the workforce. In August 2019, private housing approvals were steady, setting a benchmark for what was considered normal in the industry. But then everything changed. In April 2020, we saw the construction industry index fall to a record low. The pandemic had hit and uncertainty dominated the sector. Let me put that into perspective for you. Total employment in building and construction fell by 0.4% in 2020. Projections suggested that a further 3.6% drop, with an estimated 42,000 jobs at risk by 2021. Nearly half of all the construction businesses reported negative impacts on their productivity. About a quarter of companies found themselves unable to meet contractual obligations due to COVID-19 restrictions. But here's where it gets interesting. By late 2020, we started seeing signs of a recovery. In fact, it looked like a boom was on the horizon. Total dwelling approvals shot up by over 23% compared to the previous year. Private housing approvals were nearly 42% higher than in August 2019. This boom was fueled by a perfect storm of factors: record low interest rates, the introduction of the home builder scheme, and rising property prices. Fast forward to 2022-2023, and the construction industry was experiencing growth across all key data points. But this growth came with its own set of challenges that would soon become apparent. So, what happened next? Well, that's where things get really interesting, and it leads us to our next crucial data point. Remember that construction boom we talked about? Well, it created a perfect storm for price increases. Let me break it down for you. Material costs began to rise, and they rose fast. Structural steel prices went up by 30 to 40% in just 6 months. Timber prices jumped by up to 50% in some areas. Even basic materials like concrete saw increases of 15 to 20%. It wasn't just materials though. Labour costs were going up too. With borders closed due to COVID, we had a serious shortage of skilled workers. This meant average wages in construction rose by 3.1% in 2021, more than the national average. Some specialised trades saw wage increases of up to 10 to 15%. These weren't gradual increases, they were sudden and sharp. Let me put this into perspective. In the year leading up to March 2022, the overall cost of construction materials went up by 15.4%. To give you an idea of how unusual this is, in the decade before, it usually only went up by 1 to 2% each year. Things got even more intense in mid-2022. The cost of construction materials shot up by 22% compared to the previous year. Some projects were reporting overall cost increases of 30 to 40% compared to what they originally planned. These rapid price hikes created a huge problem for construction companies, especially for those who had agreed to fixed prices before all this happened. And that leads us to our next important point. Fixed price contracts are common in the construction industry. Builders agree to complete a project for a set price, regardless of how costs might change during construction. In normal times, this works fine, but when costs suddenly spike, like they did, it's a different story. Many builders found themselves locked into contracts that were signed before materials and labor costs skyrocketed. They were suddenly facing much higher expenses, but couldn't increase their prices to compensate. This squeeze on profits is what started pushing companies to the brink. And that's when we started seeing a significant uptick in construction company collapses. The numbers here are pretty shocking. In the second half of 2023 alone, nearly 1,400 Australian construction companies went under. To put that into perspective, that's more than 7 companies every single day. Let's break it down even further. Between July 2022 and April 2023, 1,700 construction companies across the country entered administration. That's a rate we haven't seen in years. In fact, over the past 2 years, more than 2,000 construction companies have gone into liquidation. That's more than 2 companies every day for 2 years straight. Some of these weren't small operations either. We saw major players like St. Hilliers, a 34-year-old company, fold recently. They had to halt work on 21 multi-million-dollar development projects around Australia. Other big names like Porter Davis, ProBuild, and ABG also collapsed during this period. Now let's compare this to historical data. In a typical year before 2020, we'd see around 500 to 600 construction companies go under. The current rate is more than triple that. The last time we saw numbers even close to this was during the GFC global financial crisis in 2008 to 2009, where we saw around 1,500 construction companies go under in a 2-year span. Again, this was seen as a severe downturn for the industry. Now, compare that to what we're seeing today. The construction sector accounted for over a quarter of all company collapses during the second half of December 2023. That's significantly higher than any other industry. What's particularly unique about the current situation is the combination of factors at play. In past downturns, we might have seen issues with demand or problems with financing. But this time, we're dealing with a perfect storm of supply chain disruptions, labor shortages, and rapid cost increases, all happening at once. New South Wales has been hit particularly hard. In that state, construction accounted for 80% more companies under administration than the next most affected industry. And the really worrying part is that experts are projecting this trend to continue into 2024. So, what does all this mean for property investors? Our analysis points to some critical considerations. Firstly, supply constraints. With fewer new homes being built due to construction company collapses, we're seeing a tightening of housing supply. New housing starts have decreased by 18.3% year over year. This reduction in new supply could potentially put upward pressure on property values, especially in areas with high demand. Second, increased risks in off-the-plan purchases. With the high rate of builder collapses, there's an increased risk associated with off-the-plan purchases. Projects may face delays or, in worst-case scenarios, might not be completed at all. Third, the significant increases in material and labor costs we discussed earlier are making both new construction and renovation projects more expensive. This could impact the feasibility and profitability of investment strategies that rely on these activities. For a more detailed analysis of these costs, we do a series of videos every quarter looking at the changes in construction costs and what to expect for the upcoming quarter. Just head over to our channel to watch the existing ones and make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be informed when we post new videos. The last consideration is the regional variations. The impact of the construction crisis isn't uniform across Australia. Some areas, particularly those that are more reliant on the construction industry for employment, may be more significantly affected than others. You should keep in mind that the property market is complex and influenced by many factors beyond just the construction industry. The full impact of the current construction crisis on property values and investment opportunities is still unfolding. But given the rapidly changing nature of the situation, it's crucial for investors to stay informed about ongoing developments in the construction industry and broader economic factors affecting property markets, be aware of the increased risks associated with the new construction and off-the-plan purchases in the current environment. Consider the potential for longer-term impacts on property supply in their investment decisions. Seek professional advice from financial advisors, quantity surveyors, and legal professionals before making investment decisions. Remember, while the current situation presents challenges, the property market, like all markets, is cyclical. The key is to stay informed and make decisions based on thorough research and professional advice. So, there you have it. A comprehensive look at the current state of Australia's construction industry, how we got here, and what it means for property investors. The data we've shared paints a complex picture of challenges and potential opportunities in the market. But here's the thing, understanding this data is just the first step. Applying it to your specific investment strategy, that's where things get tricky. Every property, every location, and every investor situation is unique. And in a rapidly changing market like this one, making informed decisions is more crucial than ever. If you found this analysis helpful, there's more where that came from. We're constantly tracking these trends and digging into the numbers. So if you want to stay updated on the latest trends in construction and property, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.